Hi, let's take a look at the actual course that the elite teams had to follow in the Howl at the Moon adventure race held at Jonathan Dickinson State Park. Teams would start at the Loxahatchee Pavilion along the Loxahatchee River and go by trail network on foot to checkpoint 1, located on the north side of a wetland, and then on to checkpoint 2, which required a decision of whether to swim across the river or take a long way around to across of a bridge to get to checkpoint 2. They would then continue along a very wet trail network to the Florida Trail and to checkpoint 3, making sure that they find the correct attack point to approach checkpoint 3. From there, they will continue to the Hobie Ditch, swim across the ditch, following the Florida Trail network to a point that was located underneath between I-95 and the Florida Turnpike. Then it's back out to the east side of I-95, following the Florida Trail along there to checkpoint 5, which is located inside of the river basin on a side channel. From checkpoint 5, they can continue via multiple routes to checkpoint 6, following either the Florida Trail or the trail along I-95, and then going to checkpoint 7, which is located very close to the Florida Trail. Finally, to Indiantown Road, where they'll follow the Florida Trail to an underpass, culvert underpass with water, to checkpoint 8, where they will enter Riverbend Park. At Riverbend Park, they need to make their way to the canoe launch at Picnic Island, and then launch the canoes and head via the canal network to the entrance of the river, finding 2 checkpoints along this section of river, which was completely flooded. Then they make their way underneath I-95, essentially paddling through a forest. At this point, they actually bypass canoe point 3, 4, and 5, which they have to locate later in the course, and back to the transition area at Loxahatchee Pavilion. Once they reach Loxahatchee Pavilion, they'll get on their bikes and they'll continue on the roads to Hobe Mountain or Hobie Mountain. At Hobie Mountain, they'll be given a set of basically a bearing and a distance, which will take them to the railroad tracks and a ammunition storage bunker, and then they'll continue biking back to Camp Murphy Trailhead, which is the trailhead for the single track in Jonathan Dickinson. They will then continue on the single track trail network to find 3 checkpoints hidden throughout the trail network, and then back to Camp Murphy. Once they come back to Camp Murphy, they're going to enter the next section of the course, which is the challenging orienteering course. The orienteering course requires them to enter the Florida Trail section and locate checkpoint to the O course, which has the control descriptions of all the controls within the course. They would have to write down the control descriptions somewhere within their instructions and then proceed on to the start of the O course, which they must recognize from this the trail intersection of the Florida Trail and a basically large fire break. Once they've located this, they will continue on to check the orienteering points 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all which require a significant amount of bushwhacking, and then out to a large double track trail to OP7, which is the backstop of the orienteering section, picking up OP8 and OP9 on the way back to the O course start, then finally running down the Florida Trail back the way that they came to the bike drop, where they'll enter the next challenging section of the course. Once they return at Camp Murphy, they get back on their bikes, and they must now make their way through the extensive trail network within Jonathan Dickinson to bike points 3, 4, 5, and 6. Those bike points are located along flooded trails, which sometimes require the racers to even lift their bikes above their heads, as the water is about chest deep. Much of it's rideable, much of it's not. In the end, they're going to end up back at the Loxahatchee Pavilion, where they enter the final leg of the race, which is the final paddle. Here they will re-enter their canoes and head back into the Loxahatchee River. Now they must get canoe points 3, 4, and 5 that they skipped in the initial section. All of this requiring some significant paddling and really will challenge the racers to the utmost. That's the elite race of the Howl at the Moon